Well, what's going on, family? Officially, we are here in the podcast world. It's been a long time coming, but we are excited about it. And this is episode 1 of the Square One podcast. If we've never met before, my name is Vernon Gordon. I'll be your host. And I just want to tell you a little bit about who I am. I am the husband of Ashley Gordon. I am the father of 2 beautiful children, Madison and Jackson, who are 8 and 7 at the time of this recording. I also have the privilege of being the lead pastor of a church that my wife and I founded in 2015 called the Life Church, which is one church in 2 locations, both in Alexandria, Virginia and in Richmond, Virginia at its founding campus. In addition to that, I'm the founder of a nonprofit called the Mosaic Project, which continues to build relationships between various cultures and communities. And most importantly to this podcast, I am the writer of a book that I released last year called Square One, which is all about finding the courage to start over, stay strong, and shape your future. In this book, we go over 4 core principles that allow for all of us to respond to every season of life and shape a future that we can be excited about. And ultimately, that's the heart for this podcast, to help as many people as we can find the courage to start over, stay strong, and shape your future in spite of whatever season you may be in, because the square one moment does not ever have to be the whole story. Now, here's how you can help as we jump into this. We want you to help us by subscribing and sharing and liking this podcast. Also, you can rate and review. All of that is going to help us continue to help more people on this Square One journey. I also want to take this time to encourage you, head over to my website, vernongordon.com. There, you're going to be able to jump into our Square One Challenge Masterclass, which is happening February 22nd and 23rd. Throughout those couple of days, we're going to talk about how to build a rhythm of life, a resilient life, and even add revenue to your life in Square One moments. And also in March, I'll be doing a special coaching group with a limited amount of spots. So again, head over to vernongordon.com to find out more information and to get signed up today. Well, today in episode 1, we're just going to get some foundation out there. We're going to talk about Square One. What is it and how do we respond to seasons where it shows up in our lives? And I'll even tell you a little bit more about my Square One journey as a individual. Now, when you look at the word back to square one, it is literally a phrase that is defined as going back to the beginning after a dead end or a failure. Somebody say, ouch, right? It is not where anybody desires to be. It is not where you plan to be. It is not the thing you look out or set out at the beginning of a year saying, man, I can't wait to get back to square one. No, square one is usually the result of something you least expected or a moment in time that is less than ideal. But nonetheless, I believe that when we go back to square one, it is not just a return to a beginning, it's an opportunity to return to our belief systems, to return to our boundaries, to even build stronger foundations so that we can shape a beautiful and promising future. And my personal story with Square One journey, just so you know where I kind of arrived at this intersection, is that I'm a former cancer patient diagnosed at the age of 10 years old with osteogenic sarcoma, an aggressive form of bone cancer. I had 2 tumors. Over the course of a period of about 13 years, I went through 13 surgeries. I had surgery almost every year from 10 to 22 years old. That's right. So that means in elementary school, in middle school, and in high school, time and time again, I would make progress. And then I would have to go back into surgery. I would make progress. Then I'd have to come out of school. I would make progress. And then my life would be changed yet again. Not only that, but then I was able to get married 11 years ago, thinking that that part of my journey was over and I was moving forward, only to find that 1 year into our marriage, we had heard that because of the aggressive form of chemotherapy that I had encountered, they said I would never be able to have kids? Well, as I shared with you earlier, we do have two children, and by the grace of God and the miracle of God, both of them are beautiful gifts that have entered our life. But when we were experiencing that year of waiting and praying and not knowing if we would ever be able to have children, hey, that was a season where we felt like we were in a square one place. Most recently, I started having pain even in March of 2022 in my leg, which is full of a total knee replacement and a rod and plastic and metal and liquid cement. And it consistently has problems. And now I'm even in this year preparing for a surgery in April that can feel like a setback to my schedule. Here's what I'm just trying to tell you, that I'm not talking about something I've heard. I'm talking about something I've experienced, and I've had my fair share of disappointments, delays, and difficulties. And so when we wrote this book, it was really a heart's plea to say, hey, we know what it's like to look at your life and say, man, that's not where I thought I'd be, but there's still something that can be shaped even from the season you never anticipated. As we begin to think about this, here's why this topic matters, really simply put, because a lot of people endure a season, but they don't survive it. Hear me. A lot of people endure a season, but they don't survive it. The version of them that's on the other side is not who they actually want to be. Look, square one seasons can bring challenges and difficulties and emotions and conversations that we least expected. But here's what I want to encourage you with today. You cannot just endure it. You can survive it whole and even better if you know how to go into it. There's a scripture that even speaks to this that I absolutely love. It's James chapter 1, verse 2 through 4. Here's what it says in the Amplified. Consider it nothing but joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you fall into various trials. Be assured that the testing of your faith through experience produces endurance, leading to spiritual maturity and inner peace. And let the endurance have its perfect result and do a thorough work so that you may be perfect and completely developed in your faith, lacking in nothing. Hear me. All disappointment is not the devil. Right? When we really have some detours, they're developmental. Some detours are necessary for our development, and sometimes experience is the best teacher. I'm often asked, what was it like surviving cancer? And I just tell people honestly, cancer sucked. It was really hard, but it taught me a lot about how to live life well. So here's what I want to do with the remainder of our time together. I want to share with you 4 things cancer taught me about how to live. The first one is this: your difficulty does not define you. Your difficulty does not define you. It's very easy to embrace your life stage as a life label. It's very easy for us to be like, man, because my life looks like this right now, this is the way my life will always look. This is the way it's always going to be. But that's just not true. The truth of the matter is your difficulty does not have to define you. And that's what I even love about this passage in James. It's a consistent reminder to us that we are developing through life circumstances and through life trials. And the other version of us, the other side of that, is going to be moving forward. There is something that is doing in us that's going to work through us to create a more mature version of our lives. And so your difficulty does not have to define you if you don't let it. Don't allow your life season to become your life label. Here's the second one that I've learned from cancer about how to live. Joy is a choice. It is not an outcome. It is not contingent upon people and opinions. It is not contingent upon reports. Joy is a choice. Look, if all of us be honest, feelings can take us all over the place, right? Your emotions can get the best of you in these moments. But what I love about the Hebrew definition of joy is it says it is the perpetual gladness of heart that comes from knowing and trusting God. It doesn't mean everything is ideal. It doesn't mean we ignore our realities. It simply means I trust that where I am is not all that I am. And I trust that if it's not good, then God's not done, right? Laughter is my choice. Fun is my choice, right? Getting around good people is my choice. I get to choose joy. And look at what verse 2 says. He says, so consider it nothing but joy when you face trials. In other words, the trial doesn't determine if I have joy. I come to the trial and determine if I have joy. Joy is your choice. And here's the thing I'll say about this before I move to the third one, right? What I've come to find is that most joy doesn't require more money. You know, when I went through cancer, the funniest moments of that season happened in hospital rooms with cousins and friends, and it didn't require any financial investment to laugh till our stomach hurt. It didn't require more trips or more things or more aspects of this or that. All we had to do was make up in our mind that we were going to choose joy in spite of the season. 4 things that cancer taught me about living. The first, your difficulty does not define you. The second, joy is a choice. Here's the third one, to celebrate all victories, not just the big ones. To celebrate all victories, not just the big ones. Here's what I've come to find. Most of us are only taught to celebrate at the end. Most people, most of us, right? I'm included. We have been curated and cultivated by a culture that says there's nothing to celebrate until you finish the season. There's nothing to celebrate until you've achieved the whole goal. There's nothing to celebrate until you've done all that you plan. That's just not good for our hearts, and it's not good for living our lives. There are all these small victories on the way to all that we're pursuing. Don't miss the little victories in your life every day simply because you only know how to celebrate the big ones. What is some of the joy that you could find today in celebrating a small victory? Maybe the victory is you did better this week than you did last week with your words. Maybe the victory is you pressed your way beyond your own feelings into environments of fun and recreation and hobbies, even when you felt like sitting at home. Maybe the small victory in this season is that you just looking around and you got good people around you and you can be honest with yourself and recognize that everybody does it. Celebrating all the victories is a way for you to learn how to live your best life in spite of square one seasons. Cancer taught me how to appreciate the many victories on the way to the big victory. I'm happy that God delivered me from cancer. I'm happy that I'm on the other side, but make no mistake about it, there was a long road to getting there. And if I wouldn't have learned how to celebrate on the way, I don't know if I would have made it. And maybe you're looking at your life right now and you're saying, man, I'm nowhere near where I want to be. Hear me. You can learn to celebrate along the way. Celebrate all the victories, not just the big ones. Here's the last thing I've learned. Cancer taught me this about living life, that never get so focused on the symptoms that you ignore the source. Never get so focused on the symptoms that you ignore the source. You know, when I went through my major surgeries, it was always amazing to me that they would never just cut out where the cancer was. I remember asking my surgeon, why is it that you have to cut my leg all the way up here and all the way down there when the cancer is just in this one spot? And they said, Vernon, we can't just take the cancer out. We have to address the areas that feed it, the places that it came from. In all of our lives, this same reality exists. We can become so focused on the symptoms, that we can become so focused on this and that we never really get to the source. That we never really recognize that part of the challenge to us overcoming square one seasons is that we're going to have to recognize the reason we don't have joy is because maybe we got to change some of our circles. Maybe you got to shift what you kind of push your time to. Maybe you have to manage your energy differently. Maybe you have to manage your exposure differently. And we're going to talk about all of this throughout the episodes of this podcast. We're going to look at ways in which we need to evaluate our commitments and our resilience and our outlook and our emotions, because ultimately we have to address the source, not the symptoms. Life is going to be hard in certain moments. Every day is not ideal. But the square does not have to be the end of your story. This is something you can work if you find the courage to start over stay strong, and shape your future. I want to tell you something that somebody told me a long time ago. I was in the hospital and I was in my own Square One season. And a cousin of mine brought a poem into the hospital room. It was a moment where I just felt like it was no point of fighting. I was kind of defeated and I was deflated by the multiple disappointments and setbacks, just feeling like, what's the point of fighting? What's the point of finding the courage to keep going? And the poem that he brought me was said, "What cancer can't do." It says, cancer is so limited. It cannot cripple love. It cannot shatter hope. It cannot corrode faith. It cannot eat away peace. It cannot destroy confidence. It cannot kill friendship. It cannot shut out memories. It cannot silence courage. It cannot reduce eternal life. And it cannot quench the spirit. That's all that cancer cannot do. And maybe your story is not cancer. Maybe your Square One season looks like a family loss. Maybe your Square One season looks like entrepreneurship that didn't pan out the way you planned. Maybe your Square One season looks like a health report that you weren't expecting. Maybe your Square One season is the loss of a relationship that you thought would be in your life forever. No matter where it is, you can take that same thing and place it right here. That it doesn't have the ability to steal all of your love, that it doesn't have the ability to shatter hope, that it doesn't have the ability to corrode faith, that it can't take away peace, that it can't destroy your confidence, that it can't kill your friendships, that it can't take your memories, that it can't steal your courage, that it can't reduce your eternal life, and it can't quench your spirit unless you let it. So let's choose joy. Let's choose to not allow our difficulty to define us. Let's choose to celebrate all the many victories around us, not just the ones at the end of the journey. And let's make sure that we continue to focus on the source and not just fighting the symptoms. And when we do, we're going to find that the square is not just a place to wait, but it's an opportunity to work on shaping a future that we can be excited about. So here's my challenge to you as you go into this week. Choose to live today in spite of every season, every circumstance. Your life is your choice. Live it to the best of your ability today. Hey, I'm so grateful that you joined me for episode 1. I'm telling you right now, you're in for a treat as we continue to move forward through the rest of our season. Hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, rate, and review. It helps out tremendously as we continue to help more people find the courage to start over, stay strong, and shape your future. And don't forget to head over to vernongordon.com to register right now for our Square One Masterclass, February 22nd and 23rd, and to make sure you plug into our March coaching group. I promise you, we're going to find some courage, and we're going to shape a future that we can be excited about. Love you. See you in episode 2.